we want to make sure and pick up where we left off. And so we're going to go back and make sure that we capture all of the installation that we did and the kind of the mode that we are in and the mentality that we are in, and then move from there. I don't want to take any steps back, in that regard. So we'll go back to what we installed. And then my expectations are about as high as they can get. There's no limit. We're going for it. We're going to see how far we can take our club, and we're going to do it one step at a time. We're just going to see how good we can be. And that's going to be, all phases, put this team together in a really balanced fashion where we have what we can count on both sides of the football and in the kicking game, and then play to our strengths. And there's a lot of information we have to gather still. We haven't been in pads at all, so the game hasn't even begun yet. So that's why camp is so crucial, and particularly in a first-time camp. You got to find out a lot of information about our guys.
Welcome back, Raider Nation, to Vegas Nation First and 10, your weekly and, as you're going to find out, multi-weekly go-to for Raider news and analysis, especially here during training camp, which we concluded day one of Raiders camp. I'm Vinny Bonsignore. I cover the Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal of Vegas Nation. To my left, my good friend and colleague Adam Hill, who also covers the Raiders for the Review-Journal and Vegas Nation and everything else under the Las Vegas sun. Before we get to all of our thoughts, all of our observations, and you just heard from Pete Carroll, the Raiders head coach, kicking off his first training camp, and not mincing any words on what his expectations are for this team. Before we get into all that, just want to remind everybody that Vegas Nation podcasts, including First and 10, are brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports, and we thank them for all of their support. Adam Hill, we just heard from Pete Carroll. We just saw the Raiders on the practice field first time today. As he said, he doesn't care who hears it, where it lands, who lands, how it's perceived by us, by any other team or anybody else. The goal this year is to win as many games as possible. That's clearly established. I think he was sending a message through us to his team. That's how you attack every day, every rep, every practice. Wherever that gets you, it gets you. He's not guaranteeing anything, but the goal is to win a bunch of games this year, and he's not wasting any time establishing that as the goal.
And he said, I win 10 games. That's what I do. That's what I do. And he has,
which is a pretty darn big improvement around here.
Sure. 9 of his 18 seasons, he has in fact won 10 games. Yeah. He averages right around 9 wins a season. Now, has not won 10 games since 2020, which I think getting a reset, getting a refresh is something he talked about, and getting out of Seattle and having that year to kind of rediscover the passion, the energy. And man, I wish we would have had cameras in their meeting yesterday, because we talked about today is day one of training camp, and everybody reported, rookies reported last week, veterans reported yesterday, that's Tuesday, and there was apparently a rousing meeting that went on yesterday. Pete Carroll talked to us in the media before he went in and talked to the players at 1 o'clock, and multiple players today kind of referenced that meeting kind of got wild.
It did, and by the sounds of it, and he mentioned, hey, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going out to that 1 o'clock meeting. He was already, the wheels were already spinning with Pete Carroll. Get used to that, Raider Nation. I go back a pretty long time with Pete Carroll, back to his USC days. This is not an act. This is not, any sort of trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. This is literally how he is, who he is, whether you like it or don't. It's kind of immaterial to him. This literally is what he's about. And I'll say this: if you challenge your players to think along those lines and create that expectation, basically what you're saying is that's what the expectation is. So attack every day with that in mind, rather than having any inkling in your head that you're going to lose games and this is just going to be a transitional year, because that's an out, and he believes that's an out, and he doesn't want to create any outs. Doesn't mean they're going to have a winning season. Doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean they're going to win the get to the playoffs. But I think for this organization, just establishing that, whether you're a first guy coming into the building or a veteran player, that this is what they play for, is a massive shift in how the Raiders have gone about their business recently. We've talked to coaches in that same exact setting who are like, well, we'll see. We'll. I think the last time anyone even talked about playoffs was Mike Mayock in 2021. The general manager, John Gruden, would never go there. Josh McDaniels never went there. Antonio Pierce, never went there. It was always about, getting better. All the cliches. I think it's refreshing and much needed for the head coach of the Raiders to be talking along those terms, even if it doesn't come to fruition. Just plant that seed.
Yeah, and I think part of it is you don't want to set those expectations, because then, like we talked about, 9 wins for this team, dramatic improvement.
Right.
It'd be much better than they've been in several years. Certainly much better than last year. More than double their win total. They're at the sports books. Station Casinos. I think their line right now is either 7, maybe 7.5. But that's about what's expected. They're expected to be a losing team once again. 9 wins would be great. But when you're like, we're going to the playoffs. Okay, now 9 wins is not great, not a success, and that's why a lot of people have been scared to do that. You don't want to set that kind of level. Pete Carroll's been around long enough. First of all, he's not getting fired, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And he's also he has that credibility of being able to do it. And I think that's part of what is different. Because I will push back and say, Antonio Pierce did talk like this. This was last year. I remember
he was talking about bravado,
but I remember everybody saying, "Hey, the energy is so good now."
Well, energy was fine,
great,
but he never
all this stuff.
He didn't. I honestly don't remember him talking about winning a bunch of games. Like what the expectations
I'll have to
were.
go back because I feel like he did kind of set I think there was a time when everybody kind of looked at each other like,
right,
not sure.
It was whatever it was, and I'm with you there. It wasn't quite like this, where it's what do you mean? What are the expectations? Well, the expectations are to win a whole.
I will
bunch of games.
say. I think it does feel similar into new energy, new attitude. What's different is Pete Carroll has done it, right? So I think I was talking to somebody, and I wish I could remember who it was yesterday. It was somebody in media. I think it was actually on the air, so I'm not like giving something away that was behind the scenes. But,
okay.
And they said, like Pete Carroll knows what he wants and knows how to get there. Right. Antonio Pierce knew what he wanted.
Sure.
He didn't know how to get there.
True.
And that is the difference. And I think people believe Pete Carroll knows how to get there. Now, again, doesn't mean he will. Doesn't mean they're going to do that. But everybody it's easier to believe it when Pete Carroll says it.
Right.
Because he's done it.
Right. There's no question about that. And I covered a Laker team that went from Del Harris to Phil Jackson. And there were players that say, it's not that he doesn't say a different thing, or they kind of said similar things, but one had a huge hammer in his hands and all these championship rings and all this clout in Phil Jackson, and the other didn't.
And he had weird hair and glasses.
And I love Del. I honestly love Del. He was a great guy. Yeah. But the message may have been somewhat the same, because a lot of coaches do talk in cliches. But it's all right. Well, where's your proof of concept? You've never done anything like this. You're talking a big game, but there's no proof that you've ever done it. Pete Carroll has done it. Like you said, it's been a while since he's had 10 wins. It's back to 2020, I think you said that it was, and even longer that he won a Super Bowl. But that still does carry clout. Sure. That it's possible. He's won national championships. He's won a Super Bowl. He's not talking.
And even with not doing it since 2020, he's averaged 9 wins a season.
Right.
Go back 18 years in the league, averaging 9 wins a season. That's good.
Right. With multiple types of quarterbacks, and we're going to get into Geno Smith in just a little bit, kind of his co-pilot, so to speak, in all of this. But those were the expectations that Pete Carroll said. As Adam mentioned, simultaneous to that was this big meeting that they had soon after Pete Carroll finished talking to us on Tuesday, and apparently guys were bouncing off the walls ready to get after it. And you definitely saw that enthusiasm. I'm not big on all the enthusiasm and everything like that. It's great, but it can't be cotton candy where it tastes really good and then it just disappears.
Well, it can't be your plan.
It can't be the plan.
Like Rob can't be the plan.
No,
it's part of it.
Yeah, it is part of that. You want energy with and you want to be in attack mode in everything that you do. That brings out the best in people. But there has to be some practicality and a real plan. And so we saw some of that today. Some real quick observations that I had. 11 on 11. I'm always curious about that. That's to me, where you're going to glean the most in these situations, especially without the pads. Defensively, I'll say this: Pete Carroll was not lying. The last time we talked to him at the end of minicamp when they signed Jermaine Pratt, they are going to use 3 linebackers, and Landon Roberts, Devin White, and Jermaine were on the field consistently together when they were in their base defense. It kind of reminded me of his little 4-under that he ran in Seattle. And just to visualize this, or to paint a picture of this, Landon Roberts and Devin White were the Mike and the Will, lined up kind of next to each other, and Jermaine was lined up a lot of the times closer to the line of scrimmage, if not at the line of scrimmage, upright, either setting an edge, rushing the passer, or dropping back in coverage, or going and playing some run defense. So not anything that we ever saw last year, or certainly in minicamp, but it's pretty obvious that Jermaine is going to have a role here, and there really are going to be 3 linebackers on the field quite a bit.
In fact, one of the fans that was here as we were walking by, kind of that I had known a little bit, mentioned. What is this? 1985?
Yeah,
like 3 linebackers out there. What is this? It's
right.
a whole new world of football that the Raiders are playing here. So kind of back to basics, back to old school. And again, it's the first day.
It is.
I don't think anybody's going to say like, oh, this is what they're going to play all year. Like obviously they're going to play a lot of different things. And often you saw Pratt come out and Jeremy Chin kind of moving up into the box,
and Lonnie Johnson backfilling for him,
back as a deep safety. So you'd be more in nickel with. Jeremy Chin playing more of a hybrid type linebacker / slot role.
Jamal Adams at times on the field
a little
too.
bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't out there a whole lot,
Right.
but was out there a little bit in that role as well. So look, they've got a lot of talent at safety. I think a lot of veteran experience too now, especially with Jamal Adams coming in. We should mention that Jamal Adams signs.
Yeah,
was one of a flurry of signings yesterday. So. I think we saw a lot of different ways that they can utilize this safety group, and they've got secondary has some question marks, but I think they've got that experience at safety that they're probably going to try to take advantage of.
Right, and I got a chance to talk to John Spytek a little bit, the Raiders general manager. He mentioned Thomas Harper as well.
Yeah.
They are pretty high on him. So another young safety that's kind of in that mix. It'll be interesting to see what Jamal Adams still has to offer. No question he was a high-level player at one time in his career, but this is a guy that has suffered through some pretty major injuries. I went back and looked. There was a literally bone-tearing off knee at one point, and it was a really serious injury.
Doesn't sound fun.
It does not sound fun. He was in pain every day, and he was depressed. It really kind of set a tone for what's happened since with him. So if he's healthy, we'll see what the Raiders can get.
There's a few of those guys. I mean, you look back at there's a few guys, especially on defense for this team, but I think you include Alex Kapp in there as well, who have been among the best of their positions at times that have not been the last couple of years.
Right.
Through several different reasons.
Right.
And a lot of it is injury for different guys, but you see a guy like Jamal Adams, like Devin White as well. I mean, guy who very recently was one of the best linebackers in the league, and all of a sudden now he's just available, and you can see if he's still got something.
Right, and
low risk.
Right, and if they do, and I know Pete, this will. His flag is at full mast when he hears this. Guys with chips on their shoulders that have something to prove, especially proud guys, if they are, as Adam just said, healthy. I think that's the big key here. We'll see where that all leads offensively. By
the way, the Raiders did not have to give up 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams.
That's true.
So Jamal Adams. I mean, a guy who we've seen play at a high level, and it was his first time on the field with the Raiders, but it wasn't his first experience with the Raiders. Any of the players. Maxx Crosby actually talked to us about a real kind of a backstory with them back in high school,
back in Texas, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a full circle moment. I was I think a freshman or a sophomore in high school. I think I was actually a freshman, and we played Hebron in high school in the playoffs in the first round, and he was on Hebron in Texas, and I got to see him. Like, I didn't play a snap. Obviously, I'm sitting on the sideline, and my brother was a starter on that team at Colleyville, and we got after Hebron. We beat Jamal's team, but I'm not gonna lie. Like, Jamal, I told this in the team meeting yesterday. Like, Jamal is one of the coldest players I've ever seen in person. Like, up to that point, I've never seen somebody like that on a football field. And then, fast forward, coming to the league, we played the Jets a couple times earlier in my career, and I got to see him, and that was like his prime. He was a perennial Pro Bowler, highest paid safety at the time, and he's had a couple injuries, things like that since then, but. Just being able to, follow his career. I've been, we didn't even know who we were at the time, but just kind of it's full circle coming back together. I seen him in here first thing in the morning yesterday, and we got to chop it up, and we know a lot of people mutually. So it was like we've known each other from a distance, but it was it felt like I've known him for years. Finally getting to like meet in person and chop it up. So he's a great player. He's dynamic, flies around. He's got the right type of energy. We just got to get it's like everybody else, keep stacking days and show up with positive energy, and I think he's gonna help us.
So if you haven't had a chance to get the app yet, again, we still have the $50 no worry wager available. What a great time to get in the summer. Get yourself familiar with the app. The auto racing, horse racing, the golf,
women's softball,
the MMA. Whatever you're interested in, check out the STN Sports app.
Maxx reaching back to his past as a freshman over there on the sidelines. Watching a very talented, as he said, I'd never seen anything like that prior to that. I always love covering high school sports because you see guys that are like, oh, okay, that looks completely different. So Maxx, a freshman, his older brother was playing on the team that played against Jamal Adams, and sounds like the home team or his team got the best of Jamal Adams, but Maxx obviously was impressed with Jamal Adams.
Yeah, I remember several years ago, I was out at Bishop Gorman doing a story about something that was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And the JV game was going on. So I was talking to like some varsity players, but they were playing the next night. The JV game was going on, and I looked out on the field and I said, "That kid's good." And they said, "Yeah, he's pretty good." It was DeMarco Murray.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Pretty good player.
There you go.
Yeah.
He turned out to be pretty darn good.
Pretty decent.
He turned out to be pretty good. Okay,
7 touchdowns that game.
Oh, yeah, nobody. I mean, did anyone really want to tackle him?
No.
Yeah. All right, so a couple other observations. We touched a little bit on the defense with the 3 linebacker set, and then Pratt came off the field. Jeremy Chin slid into more of a linebacker slot position, which he's played that quite a bit in his career. That's part of the plan. And because you had mentioned it is just the first day of training camp, what to read, what not to read into it. Where I'm reading a little bit into it, at the very least, is, as Pete Carroll said yesterday when we talked to him, we're picking up where we left off.
Right.
This is not a reintroduction to stuff. It's what we had already established in OTAs and minicamp. Now, granted, we didn't see a whole lot of 3 linebacker set, but they just didn't have
Pratt
Jermaine.
wasn't there,
Pratt wasn't there. So what they're doing right now, it feels like, as Pete said, this is a continuation of what they started. They're not tearing up the book and rewriting it. It's pick up where you left off and start reiterating that, which to me lends itself to, unless guys beat other guys out or things change, this is going to be a big part of the plan.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think what I would look at it as, get your best players on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that seems to be what
that's a very
plan
smart
is
way to
right now.
play
It seems,
football.
I mean,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Seems obvious, but
and right now that's kind of who their guys are, and that's what they were. I think you saw also, if you're if we're going to read into like 1s and 2s type of thing, a lot of Jonah Laulu up at the starters for sure.
Max had a lot of nice things to say about him,
and a lot of coaches have raved about him. I know I talked to him. I did a column on him a couple of weeks ago, talking to him out at the SAC Summit, and he just talked about really like getting it. He feels like he really turned a page this offseason. A lot of people have said he was fantastic at OTAs and in the offseason, so I think that's a guy to look out for too, as well on the defensive side.
You mentioned Jonah, and somebody asked me today, what do you think the Raiders are going to do at the waiver wire? When the and I'm like, if I'm the Raiders, those are the type of players I'm looking for at the end of training camp. Now, unless there's an injury or something like that. But Laulu and Thomas Harper, guys that the Raiders, and at that time it was Tom Telesco, jumped on as quickly as possible when they became available. Rather than bringing in a name that gets cut at the end of training camp, go for the younger player like that who's got some longevity potentially.
Isn't this my whole philosophy?
Well, I mean, yes, but but at the same time,
I will agree with you. Vinny.
Yes, but there's ways to there's enough space in I think on an NFL roster where you can have a blend of both.
Sure.
And so for that reason, I don't want to hear about the Amari Coopers and this guy and that guy. No. If I'm running this show, I'd rather go get young players that you could build with. Now, Jermaine Pratt, obviously, and Landon Roberts and Devin White don't fit that category, but you still have to try to.
Or Jamal Adams.
Jamal Adams, quite honestly. But you still have to, even though he's only 29 years old, you still have to win some games as quickly as you possibly can. Real quick, along the lines of the observations, and another theme that carried over was the Raiders were in 11 personnel offensively quite a bit. And
I want to find out who the 3 guys were. We'll do that right after this.
This one's for the Vegas locals and Vegas locals only. STN Sports is the sports betting experience built for you. From the app to the 19 convenient locations across the valley to sign up, bet, and watch your favorite games. And with a massive betting menu and daily odds boost, there are tons of ways to get in the action. Sign up today.
Well, Adam teased it, and he left out one key part. Who the guys were, he said he's referring to the wide receivers. 11 personnel is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. Sure. And the Raiders utilized that today quite a bit. A lot of it was in first down situations. Without further ado, for the first part of, or the first 11-on-11 session, the 3 wide receivers were Dante Thornton, the rookie from Tennessee, Trey Tucker, the third-year player from Cincinnati, and of course Jacoby Myers, right? So those were the 3 wide receivers. The tight end would be Brock Bowers. A lot of times it was Michael Mayer. Ian Thomas was out there every once in a while. So that was where it was early on, which was kind of a continuation a little bit, I guess, of what we saw in minicamp and OTAs, and I'm specifically talking about Dante Thornton being out there with the starters. Your thoughts on that first?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dante Thornton brings something that they haven't really had, that big receiver. Obviously, a guy who's ultra athletic, ultra talented, can get down the field. We saw him run almost nothing but go routes in college. But the Raiders believed that he could be a more complete receiver. A lot of teams in the league were like, hey, we want that guy as a deep threat. The Raiders said, we think he can do more, and that was why they kind of brought him in. And I think that they've seen more from him. That's why they want to elevate him to that kind of role. They want him on the field more, and they think he can do more than just run go routes, although I think the most notable target to him was a go route today that went down the field.
Why wouldn't you?
Went, far beyond his reach, but they tried.
Yeah,
to try to go downfield. So it's the thing he can do. They think he can do a little bit more than that, and I think we're seeing him expand the route tree a little bit out on the field. But certainly he was involved in a lot of different packages because he's not the one that came out when they changed personnel.
He wasn't when they did change the personnel in their second go around with 11 on 11. When they did go to 11 personnel, Jack Besh, before everyone is like, what's going on with Jack Besh? The second round pick from TCU, Jack Besh replaced Trey Tucker, and it became Dante Thornton, Dante Thornton, Jack Besh, the rookie from TCU, and Jacoby Myers.
And we should also say, I mean, they're changing every play. Like, they're changing personnel a lot of different. It's not like those are the only guys that are out there. But that was clearly a grouping, though, that they were.
It was, yeah, because and why this one stood out a little bit more was because when Gino was out there with 11 personnel in that first 11 on 11, it was exclusively those 3. Now they wrote, they would bring in different settings, and when they brought in another quarterback, that's when Jack Besh came onto the field, was when 12 came onto the field, Aiden O'Connell. But in the second 11 on 11, it was Jack Besh as the primary guy, along with the other 2 that we mentioned, and Trey Tucker came off the field. Now, here's the $1 million question for me is, as the season goes on, do you feel like, and obviously Jack Besh is, and this is you just look at him and you're like, wow, he's a pretty big wide receiver. He kind of reminds me a little bit body-wise of Cooper Kupp, like the big, thick kind of guy, a little bit bigger than you initially thought just watching him on TV. He's a big physical wide receiver, much more so than Trey Tucker. So as the year goes on, do you think that becomes the primary 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers on the field?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if Tucker and Thornton are more interchangeable at some point, because even though their body types are very different, I think they do have a pretty similar skill set, even though, like I said, bodies are totally different. And Thornton, like I said, gives them that kind of jump ball kind of target that they don't really have with Trey, even though he's a deep ball threat. So I kind of thought they'd be more, that
was a little bit of a surprise today.
But that wasn't the case in a lot of different areas. So I'm interested to see it. Also, we should point out, looked like it was a lot of Parham at left guard and Kappa at right guard.
Yeah.
So that
Cap is I think I'd have to go back and look, but I think he's only played right guard in his career.
No, that's how they were lined up. Sure, that's how they were lined up as the kind of the first group. So again, a lot will change, a lot of substitutions. There's a lot of in and out, but we're just kind of talking about in general what the personnel grouping seemed to be.
And I know a lot of our watchers and listeners. I guess if there's a big concern or the biggest question mark maybe on this team are the young cornerbacks. First team-based defense was typically you had Eric Stokes, the veteran from the Green Bay Packers, and Darian Porter, again the rookie from Iowa State. Were the 2 starters, and then behind them were DeCamerion Richardson and Jacorian Bennett. And if you're Patrick Graham or Pete Carroll, that wouldn't be a bad way for that to play out if guys justify their spots. Because
I think they love Stokes.
They do like Stokes. I think talking to some people inside the building, I think they chalk up some of his struggles in Green Bay to just bad luck with injuries. He wasn't able to consistently stay on the field. So they feel like I think it was, I believe it was John or maybe it was Pete. One of them said they've kind of figured out some ways to handle certain things.
That was John.
It was John. Yeah, there were some things that they've sort of figured out that they feel like they're going to have a pretty good handle on in terms of keeping him on the field. So, read what you wanted to. It could be some preparation, could be how they use him, whatever the case might be. They feel like they're going to be able to get a little bit more longevity of him on the field. And look, this is a first-round pick. A guy that was a pretty darn good player at Georgia. If they're able to keep him on the field, maybe they hit gold right there.
Well, yeah, another guy who, highly talented, highly regarded, and for whatever reason, like a lot of the players we just mentioned already hasn't worked out. So,
right.
Again, early in camp, but they've liked him all off season.
Yeah, one other thing that speaking about those corners with John Spytek, the one thing that they all do, even though Jakorian's not the tall guy that a DeCamerion is, or an Eric Stokes is, or a Darian Porter is, they all can run.
Yeah.
They're all really fast, and we know that about Jakorian. He's runs like the wind. And it goes back to what Pete Carroll said about the entire secondary, but I think in a lot of ways he was really referencing that cornerback room. It's as physically gifted a cornerback room that he's had in his career, and we're not talking about skill level at this point.
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out, but just the physical gifts of being able to run and the long, lean, physical attributes that this cornerback room has.
Yeah, but no question. I mean, you see it jumps out to you for sure.
Does.
I mean, it's on. We know on paper. We know in practice. We've seen it. So a lot to go. We're very early in camp, one day, but we're going to be bringing you guys information pretty much every day. Oh, we should point out, I guess, play of the day. We'll have that every day in the newspaper. But
yes.
I would say it was definitely today. Ian Thomas,
without
no question. One hand catch over the middle. Fantastic grab.
And who is Ian Thomas? He's the third tight end in this room, along with Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers, that quite honestly both John Spytek and Pete Carroll have been talking, and Chip Kelly, for that matter, the offensive coordinator, have been talking up pretty well.
Jumped out at OTAs. There's no question.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
he
dude
stood out every time.
Yeah, he's a big physical player that, John had mentioned that when they were in Tampa Bay, they had their eye on him.
Division.
He was in their division,
so they saw him a lot.
and I think that he was somebody that they had their eye on, and bringing him to Tampa Bay doesn't always work out. That's also the thing. You can't grab everybody in the draft.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys that you loved that ended up getting drafted by another team, but that didn't mean you lost your love for him. Yeah. So an opportunity came with the Raiders and John Spytek to bring Ian in, and so far so good, and that lifts. I mean, if he's the floor of this tight end room, based on what we've seen so far, and obviously Brock Bowers is the ceiling, and Michael Mayer figures in there somewhere. By the way, real quick about Michael Mayer, one other tidbit from John Spytek. It turns out that the time that Brock Bowers missed pursuing his degree over at Georgia, which that's a life thing that everyone's got to. He good on him for doing that. He missed a first couple phases basically.
Mayer got to be the number one
of
guy.
OTAs, yeah, and kind of I think with this coaching staff, we're like, oh yeah, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah. So Bowers was gone for some of the OTAs, and Mayer's the number one tight end, and they get their introduction to him as their number one tight end, and like, oh yeah, he can fill this role.
Interesting how life can work out sometimes, because I'm just I think there were some teams that were calling on Michael Mayer, and there might have been a time where the Raiders were like, well, we'll listen, why not? Got a surplus here, but I think that experience said, nah, he's pretty good on this football team.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Brock Bowers been a couple of nice catches today. That's nothing unusual. Any other observations that you had from today?
No, I think more just like we talked about, of them trying to pick up where they left off, not trying to start over, not trying to make it day one. It's day 37 or whatever it is randomly. But obviously we're gonna have every day. We're gonna have some stuff to go over what we see out there. So a lot of moving pieces with the team for sure. But I thought we did get a sense of who right now is in the lead for a lot of different positions, even though I think there's going to be battles every single day.
Can I ask you a quick question? Last thing before we go. All right, so multiple players have told this to us as well. It was the hardest OTAs, the hardest that they've practiced in OTAs. I think Maxx may have said in his career, like they got after it in OTAs. Now I always point this out. Pete Carroll goes all the way back, pretty long ways. I mean, he was on a staff with Bud Grant. Okay, Bud Grant's one of the iconic coaches in this league through the 70s. Right? He goes all the way back to Bud Grant days. I think when you talk about he only knows one way, I think putting the pedal to the metal and challenging guys physically and getting after it is something that he's just all about. And I sometimes wonder if some of the younger coaches aren't as in tune with that, because as Maxx said, there was no transition to training camp. It was just, again, a carryover of the pace, the work ethic, how much they got after it in minicamp that set the stage for training camp. Because as Maxx said, there were times in his career here with the Raiders, you got to training camp and there were guys out there that were like, dying basically. Well, not dying. You know what I'm saying? Like.
And I know last year they were gone, but they have had some camps here before. And I will say, to be fair, they got a great weather day today.
Pete brought some Pacific Northwest.
Usually you'd come into camp and it's like 120.
Right.
And I'd be like, yeah, I understand why they're huffing and puffing day one.
Right.
Let's see. I mean, I believe him. I'm not gonna say that's not true. Maxx knows obviously better than anyone, but they did get pretty lucky.
Oh,
they got pretty lucky with that.
We did too, actually.
So did us.
So did
we. Yeah, we did too.
Yeah, knock on whatever this is, that remains the case. It's not. We're in Las Vegas, so we're bracing for the inevitable heat wave. But all that said, they're back at it tomorrow. We're going to be back at it tomorrow. We're going to be every weekday, basically, that the Raiders practice. We are going to be doing a podcast, so we'll be sending all that out on social media so that you don't miss a beat of our observations and what we're hearing and who we're talking to and all that great stuff. I want to say thanks to Adam Hill for all his great work. Want to say thanks to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Vegas Nation, also Station Casinos, STN Sports. Want to say thank you to Heidi Feng for all the great work that she does. I'm Vinny Bonsignore. We appreciate all of your support without question. Please continue to hit the like button, subscribe if you have a Raider fan in your family or amongst your friends. Vegas Nation, a subscription to Vegas Nation always makes a great gift for the Raider fans out there. Where you're one-stop shopping for Raider news. You don't need to go anywhere else. We've got you covered. And we, again, appreciate the support. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll be back at it tomorrow on day 2 of Raiders training camp.